All right, let's take a virtual tour of Calton Hill, one of Edinburgh's most recognizable and honestly most interesting landmarks. It's this incredible place of huge ambitions, some pretty spectacular failures, and, well, one of the most breathtaking views in all of Scotland. We're going to dive into why this hill is so much more than just a pretty picture on a postcard. You know, the writer Robert Louis Stevenson just nailed it with this quote. From other spots, yeah, you see parts of the city. But from Calton Hill, you see the entire story of Edinburgh laid out right in front of you. It's this one-of-a-kind perspective that connects the city's ancient castle with its wild volcanic heart. So you have to wonder, how did this windswept volcanic hill become such a major statement piece for the city? Well, the answer really lies in a super ambitious nickname Edinburgh gave itself back in the 19th century. A name that would literally shape its skyline forever. See, during this incredible period of intellectual and scientific progress, we're talking about the Scottish Enlightenment, Edinburgh started to see itself as a modern-day Athens. And this wasn't just a metaphor, they went all in. The city embraced this Greek-inspired neoclassical architecture, and Calton Hill was chosen to be its Acropolis. The idea was to create this public gallery of grand, classical buildings looking out over the whole city. But way before all the monuments, there was just the rock. I mean, Calton Hill is the leftover stump of a volcanic eruption from 350 million years ago. It's pretty wild to think about. This ancient foundation, now a key part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, became the perfect dramatic stage for a very human story of ambition that's really only a few hundred years old. So if you were there, getting to the top is actually pretty easy. It's like a quick 5-minute climb from Waterloo Place. And as you walk up, you're literally walking through all these different layers of Edinburgh's history, passing the ghosts of philosophers, poets, and even some political firebrands. Right at the foot of the hill, you'll find the old Calton burial ground. And in there is the final resting place of the great Enlightenment philosopher David Hume, who's in this grand Roman-style tomb that he actually designed himself. And right nearby, there's this towering obelisk that remembers the political martyrs of 1793. These were 5 men convicted of sedition, basically for campaigning for political reform, and they were banished all the way to Botany Bay in Australia. And this layered history just goes to show you that the hill wasn't always this grand place for monuments. No way. Before its big reinvention, it was a quarry, it was the site of a monastery, and get this, it was even a hospital for lepers in the 16th century where the penalty for leaving after sunset was actually death. It was a place of industry, of quarantine, and of worship long before it became a symbol of civic pride. So you get to the summit, and you just can't miss it. This colossal, half-finished Greek temple that completely dominates the skyline. This, right here, is the National Monument, and its story is really the central drama of Calton Hill. It's a classic tale of huge ambition meeting the cold, hard reality of money. And this brings us to the big question, right? Why is it here? And more importantly, why does it look like the builders just packed up and walked off the job halfway through? The answer tells you so much about 19th century Scotland. Okay, so the plan was breathtakingly ambitious. In 1822, they started building a full-scale replica of the Parthenon in Athens. It was meant to be a memorial for the Scottish soldiers and sailors who died in the Napoleonic Wars, and the glorious centerpiece of the Athens of the North. But here's the catch. The project was funded by public subscription, and the money, it just ran out. By 1829, work ground to a halt, leaving just the 12 columns we see today, and it very quickly earned the nicknames Scotland's Folly and Edinburgh's Disgrace. The whole story really boils down to the numbers. The project needed £42,000, which is about $4.5 million in today's money. They only ever managed to raise $16,000. So despite this grand vision and a foundation stone laid with all this incredible ceremony, the funding just wasn't there. And so the monument was left to stand as this huge testament to both pride and poverty. Now, just a few steps away from this famous failure is another monument. But this one wasn't only completed, it also served a really crucial practical purpose for over a century. So let's turn our gaze to the Nelson Monument. This tower, built between 1807 and 1816, commemorates Admiral Lord Nelson's victory and his death at the Battle of Trafalgar. And its very distinctive design is no accident. It's modeled on an upturned telescope, as a nod to the kind used by the Royal Navy and to that famous story of Nelson putting one to his blind eye during a battle. What's really cool is that this monument also had this fascinating second life. In 1852, a time ball was installed right on top. So every single day, just before 1 p.m., the ball is raised to the top, and at the stroke of 1, it drops. This was a super important visual signal for sailors on the ships down in the port of Leith. It let them accurately set their marine chronometers, which was absolutely essential for figuring out their longitude at sea. And because, let's face it, Edinburgh's weather is famously foggy, an audio backup was added in 1861. The 1 o'clock gun at Edinburgh Castle, which is still synchronized to fire at the very same moment the ball drops.
Okay, and now for the main event. The reason millions of people make their way up here. The view. I'm telling you, it's the ultimate reward for that short climb. It's a 360-degree panorama that just puts the entire city and everything around it into perfect perspective.
Okay, so if you're looking south, you've got the huge volcanic mass of Arthur's Seat rising up, with Holyrood Palace and the Scottish Parliament building kind of nestled at its feet. Then you turn to the west, and your view stretches all the way down Princes Street, past the iconic Balmoral Hotel clock, all the way to Edinburgh Castle perched on its rock. Turn north, and you can see across the Port of Leith and the Firth of Forth to the shores of Fife in the distance. And to the east, on a clear day, your view can stretch for nearly 100 miles, picking out landmarks like the famous Bass Rock. It's just incredible. And while you're taking in that view, you're literally surrounded by these other beautiful classical structures that complete the whole Acropolis scene. You've got the City Observatory, designed by William Henry Playfair, which now houses a contemporary art gallery. And then there's maybe the most famously photographed one, the Dugald Stewart Monument, a gorgeous circular temple also designed by Playfair, which honors a Scottish philosopher. But here's the thing about Calton Hill. It's not just some static, open-air museum. It's still a really dynamic and vital part of Edinburgh's cultural and civic life. It's a stage for celebration, for protest, and for community. I mean, every year it hosts massive events. The Beltane Fire Festival, which is a modern pagan celebration, draws over 12,000 people on April 30th. It's a key spot for watching the New Year's, or Hogmanay, fireworks, and it's also been a powerful location for political expression, including the long-running vigil for a devolved Scottish Parliament. It really is a living landmark, constantly being reinterpreted by new generations. And this all brings us back to a really crucial question. What began as a symbol of this lofty, unrealized ambition has completely evolved into something else. So, is the National Monument still Scotland's disgrace? Or has its beautiful, ruined state become an iconic and genuinely beloved part of the city's identity? I think Calton Hill reminds us that a monument's true meaning isn't just set in stone by its builders. It's constantly being rewritten by everyone who has stood in its shadow ever since.